and a very warm welcome back to your 8th, ninth, or 10th favorite reality TV recap podcast. It's Blighty Day Fiance. My name is Michelle, and with me today is the Stiller to my Mira, the Nichols to my May. It's my comedy / performing / friendship partner forever and ever, no matter the weather. It's Jack.
Just Jack. Hey, everybody. Hello, hello. We are pulling another evening recording here in Los Angeles. We're going to bring some energy. We're trying to bring up our energy. I'm fully caffeinated. Michelle, not fully caffeinated as usual.
But it's better that way. It's much better. If I was caffeinated, you'd have to peel me off the ceiling.
And you had a busy day. We went on the freeway, went to Burbank. It was a really exciting day here in Los Angeles, but not as exciting as what's going on the other way.
And that's what we're talking about. Season 6, episode 3. Not sure of the title, not confident there, but we'll put that in as it comes. Thank you to everybody. We've had a strong uptick in numbers on our Facebook group, facebook.com/BlightyDayBays. Blighty is spelled BLIGHTY. Bays is spelled BAES. It's free. All you have to do is agree to the rules, of which there are maybe 3 or 4, and you can come in and join the discussion. So thank you to all of our new community members for being good community members. We are so excited to have you. We may have picked up a few listeners from the live show we did as guests in Los Angeles with Reality Gaze. We had the best time. And then not long after that, we did a guest collab with DocuSweeties, Chris and Wah, which was another, I mean, they are fantastic. If you're not listening to them, you should. And go back and listen to those on their respective shows if you haven't already.
I do. I just want to jump in. I very happy with the new members in there, and I just want to say you can find me. My last name's not on there because I may have messed with my name a few too many times for Facebook's liking. So right now I'm just in there as Jack, and I have Florian's picture as my picture. So when you see me in there, please write messages to me. I love hearing from the fans, and I'm looking to engage. So let's get that group going.
Yes. And also thank you to everybody reaching out on our Instagram at Blighty Day. Know that you can reach me and Jack and cousin Dan and Robin and anyone else on our team. You can even write to Jack's wife, Diana, who's been a fabulous guest on many of our podcasts. She is going to be joining us to recap The Cutting Edge, as well as season 8 overview of season 8 of The Real Housewives of New York, which is coming up on our bonus episode this weekend. Okay, so join our Patreon, patreon.com/BlightyDayFiance. Use the search feature if you can't find us right away. And for just $5 a month, you get all of our content ad-free, plus a weekly bonus episode. We will be covering Plathville this season. We're going to keep the first 3 episodes in full, free and easy, and then we are going to paywall the second half of each episode as time goes on. We are hoping also to cover Love is Blind UK. We've been waiting for that one for a long time, and we are super excited. That's not going to be a Patreon exclusive. That's going to be on the main feed. So lots to look forward to in the coming weeks. We are extremely excited. We've got so much to say and so much good content for you coming up. So thank you for your patience as we've adjusted to timings and new locations and things of that nature. And without further ado, let's get into the recap itself.
As the wonderful co-host that I am, I've pulled the title for today's episode, and it is appropriately Can Buy Me Love?
Of course.
I can only, it feels like that was a little bit, I know it's not who it was about, but it feels like a Sarper line.
Yeah, it feels like Sarper has said
Can
that.
buy me love? Because it goes along with his whole like, oh no no, I meant bitch,
Yes.
whore question mark.
Yeah. And then the bitch factor is going to dial up and up and up and up and up. Jack, how high is your bitch factor today?
Let's see, how has my day been? No, my bitch factor's pretty low right now. Had a nice coffee. I'm nicotined up. May have had a gummy earlier in the day. It's my bitch factor's low today. How's your bitch factor, Michelle?
My bitch factor is pretty low, but I think once we start talking about some of these folks, I might dial it up a little bit.
Well, I'm curious with if we start here, if we pick Corona and Inky, I'm curious if that bitch factor is going to step up a little bit.
You know what? Corona exhausts me from the moment she appears on screen. This is not, and that's not a criticism of her. I know it sounds like shade. It really isn't. I mean, I can pick up on her energy, and that would be challenging for me to be around. I have difficulty being around like high energy folks. Um, and
That's
yeah,
why we work so well together.
yes, that is why we work so well together. Um, really interesting. I think kind of revealing comments from her here and there. She says, I was not looking for love in the slightest. And then Inky came bulldozing in. And then I thought, did he?
Well, we were talking about that because it was like she's saying he came bulldozing into my life. So anyway, I'm on my way to Reykjavik to live there forever and move into his house. So who's bulldozing into whose life there, Michelle?
Who's zooming who? Indeed. Who's bulldozing who?
Now, how did
Whom?
we pick up here exactly? Because it's all, I don't know. I find the show to be a bit of a blur as it comes through. Although, to be fair, going off of what you were saying, it might have been her energy that. Look, I think her energy seems like fun. She seems like a fun person,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't know that I could match that. Like, every moment's beating the last moment. Almost, that's her vibe.
Yes. And we'll have more thoughts about that, but um, this was an insight that Diana had. So at one point, Corona says, the ground beneath me is no longer solid, and now I'm falling through the clouds. And Diana pointed out that's what she lives for. That's the feeling that makes her feel the most alive. And we were talking back and forth a bit while we were watching this um, about how she might be looking for a sort of release from this program, from this midwifery program, because it's very prestigious. She might, I think someone like her might have a fear of failure because she's never failed. And that might be scary for her. Um, Prospects of taking out another student loan. I don't know if she got a scholarship to this or not. I know she got a place, but I financially she could be in a tough spot. She might be sort of fighting this starting her life. And trust me, listeners, nobody knows that feeling better than I do. I would be in education forever if I could afford to be, but I can't. So I'm not.
You want to be one of those perma students?
Yes, I want to be Buster Bluth and just collect degrees forever and ever. That's minus the hook for a hand. That's my and no disrespect. I'm very accident prone and I would definitely accidentally scratch my eye out. Um so thoughts on that, Jack? What do you think this is really about?
I think so. With the the ground beneath me is no longer solid. The ground beneath Corona is never really solid because Corona doesn't want to stand on solid ground. She wants a moving landscape in front of her. That's what I see, because we see she's in Philadelphia. She's not leaving for a better climate weather-wise or anything like that. I feel like, based on everything you just said, yes, I agree that she is looking for a way out. And we had talked about this, and we won't go deep onto this, but I just want to say, you were bringing up how midwifery is, used or seen in the UK, where they're part of the National Health Service there.
Yes, that's right. So in the UK, um, midwives are recognized. They're recognized medical professionals who are trained in hospital settings, and they play a very different role than they do in the US. So, yes, women give birth all the time in hospitals. That is conducted mainly and almost exclusively by midwives, uh, unless, of course, it's a high risk situation. Midwives don't do things like episiotomies or cesarean sections or anything like that. Obviously, you'd need a surgeon for a cesarean section. But if it's a relatively uncomplicated, low risk pregnancy, it's midwives that deal with the mother from the very beginning up to the point of giving birth and even after. So in some ways, that's a more comfortable scenario for women, especially women who don't have health insurance, um, who are in that situation. I had a friend and an employer whose children I nannied for, and she chose to have a home birth for her third child, and she wasn't worried at all because her mother was a midwife and she had her own midwives come, and she said it was just so much better than the hospital. Now, granted, she was healthy, low risk, had already given birth to two healthy children, so there weren't any of the risk factors. But yeah, it's a choice lots of women are comfortable making in the UK.
And I just bring that up because not making a distinction between the difference and how it's perceived here, but it seems from what you're saying that it might be less lucrative or stable here.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, my understanding, and I have a very limited understanding of
Yes,
how
we
it
are.
works
Just to be
here.
clear, no one is an expert. We are just hashing this out in conversation.
Um, my understanding is that midwives are normally seen as alternatives, or it's like complementary to whatever you're doing. So you would hire a midwife if you were going to give birth in a hospital and you were high risk as your doula or birthing coach or whatever, what have you. Um,
And all that to say that that all makes a lot of sense if that could be, reasons why maybe Corona is, while this is the most prestigious or one of the most prestigious midwifery schools in the world, I don't look. I also, as much since she's willing to jump into everything, I also don't know if she wants to be. Is she ready at 30 years old with her personality to settle down into a career?
when she I don't think no. I This feels very pie in the sky
Hmm.
escapist to me. And I know from my personal experience, I lost a very close friend of mine to a tragic accident when I was 21, and that really informed my decision to end my engagement at the time and run to England and do something completely different. So I know what that feeling is like, and that feeling of, oh my God, I need to do, something different. I need to break from the norm. And I think she's had a lot of pressure on her whole life. She is completely self-made. And I sympathize with that a lot, not because I'm self-made, because I haven't done anything, but I mean, she's had to uphold these insane academic standards, and she's the best at what she does, and she's always been at the top of her game academically, and I think that's so much pressure, and there has to be a willingness to kind of blow that up. But to replace that with this is my person who I barely know.
How much time have they spent together? Was it? It was not more than like 2 weeks, right?
No, it's something like maybe 20 days. And that's not, I didn't feel that that was necessarily consecutive days. I think,
Two separate trips.
yeah, possibly. So
But I just to finish that, and then we'll move on into them. But
sorry.
no, 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 that's all right. I was just saying that the feeling of maybe the ground not being solid beneath her. I guess what I was getting at in the long run there of that discussion is the ground has been somewhat solid for her, from what we know in terms of she has a career, that she's been doing. She has clients. She's working in that, but she's not settled, and she's looking for, I mean, she's obviously looking for love and she thinks she's found it. Now, if we slide over to Reykjavik, do you think Inky has found his forever love? And do you think he's found his forever person? And do you think he's even looking at this relationship in the same way as Corona?
No, I don't. Um, I had to fact check this, that in Iceland, everyone is potentially a distant relative. I didn't, I was sort of, Jack and I were talking about this before we started recording. I found an article that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It
But
was in Icelandic, which we, no, I'm just kidding.
the overall assertion was that this is a vastly exaggerated claim, and that the reality is that many people from that many Nordic folk are distantly related because they come from the same gene pool, and but that it's not quite so bad that you really do need a dating app to figure out who your cousin is, and whether you are in fact about to fuck them.
I
um
was thinking that it feels like an island thing a little bit because I've heard the same thing from friends in the Caribbean who live in small islands, where, if a lot of people don't, if people stay on the island forever, obviously there's more relatives there. But I agree. I think, Inky was having a little bit of fun there. And that sounds like a rip-off Icelandic app that makes you download it and pay a couple of bucks and, find out that you're fucking your first cousin, possibly.
but also, how do you make that determination, because they have the same last, like, how much information
That's
would you have to give away to get
You would need to give blood. So I don't
right?
know how accurate this
I'm
is.
not, yeah, I don't know about all that.
But I'm curious if you take Inky saying that into account. I just want it to cloud everything and color everything you say about Inky, because I'm wondering if that is some sort of like avoidant flag for him or something like that. Like, I'm just looking for someone because I'm related to everybody, and that's why I'm 37 years old and have never had a relationship.
Yeah, I don't know if that is has anything to do with the limits of the dating pool, or whether that is a lifestyle choice, because I mean, look, American culture, British culture, not strangers to having, being friends with people that you knew in elementary school, and
Right.
having groups of girlfriends or groups of guy friends who, there's a point where the first one gets married. And then from my observation, the rest kind of, with groups of guys in particular, the rest of the guys in that group follow suit pretty quickly after.
At least within a couple of years, usually.
Yep. Yeah. I was in a 5-year relationship with a British man in between my two marriages, and those were solid summers of weddings in the same friend group. Um, yeah, so I think this is more to do with his lifestyle, that kind of bachelor lifestyle, and that sort of Peter Pan syndrome of, I don't have to grow up, so why should I? The joys of being a white cisgender heterosexual man, right? Just do whatever you want whenever you want it, because you have all the time in the world. Um,
Hey.
well, um, but he does have friends in his group who are more grounded than them, one of whom whose name I have no hope of getting right, so I'm not even going to try. His friend is not entirely convinced that Inky knows exactly what he's getting into. He's viewing this in sort of a casual way, it seems. But what did you think of him saying she about Corona? She was pursuing me, and I think that was something I needed.
Oof. Now I make that sound because that's not a great line for Corona to hear. Not that she's hearing it live, but thinking about her circumstance. So what does that mean? Let's break it down for a second. So I'm hearing I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't chasing anyone. I wasn't pursuing anyone. This really fun, cute American girl is super into me and pursuing me. So, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's check that out. Hey, man, she's moving here for you forever. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. That's what it felt like.
We'll see how it
We'll see how
goes.
it goes.
Um,
And I do want to say one more thing, unless just about his
no, of
friends.
course.
I just wanted to say the erstwhile cool kid in me saw them playing D&D or whatever they were playing, and I was like, nerds. Then about 30 seconds later, the other part of me, the true part of me, was like, wish I had some
Kind of
friends.
jealous.
Yeah, I wish I had some
Yeah.
friends like that. I wish I had nerdy friends who lived nearby and we could
No, I
play.
think about that too all the time. I had a friend many years ago in DC when I in my early 20s who was super into board games, and I was really envious that he had like a group that would just come over. I mean, that was very much I never I don't have like a long standing group of friends. I just don't. That was never something that was a part of my life. I had short-lived ones, and I sort of end up retaining like one person per group. Uh
That's what I used to do.
yeah, but I've never really had a group like that, so I can't speak to that, but it is something that
It
I'm
looks
envious
cool.
of.
I will say, so that's ominous for Corona, though. Just getting back to that quote.
Yes. Have you ever felt that you needed a woman to pursue you because otherwise you wouldn't have taken the initiative?
Nope.
I kind of know the answer to that without
And
asking.
that's not even, I don't even know. I'm not even trying to cast aspersions or anything because I don't really have, I'm not going to like diss that need. You might need that, but I don't know. That's not something that does it for me. Like maybe I know a lot of people like the pursuit and all that, but I suppose in those, I don't know, just more common for me to be the pursuer instead of the pursuee,
But I
pursuant.
think you had, and this is just my perception of you, based on what you've told me, but it seems to me that you had a lot more confidence out of the gate. Where did that come from for you? Because I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were bullied about some things at some points in your life. You have gotten into scraps previously, but where did that early confidence come from?
So now when I was bullied, it was never by like a group or anything like that, and I think it was probably more self-perception than actual bullying. Um, Odd thing about me, I'm self-conscious and I don't really know how I come off to people, and I spent many years trying to figure that out until, and this is a fun thing, it happens if you work on yourself and you do different things in life. Around my mid 30s, I stopped caring. um, and I don't mean that so simply. I mean, I still care, but it becomes more. I just had one of those realizations where through meeting successful people and famous people and having, one-on-one chats with people like that, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. And everyone's sort of like putting on their best face and trying their best. And I guess I also reached a point where, you make enough mistakes in life that don't burn your life down. you realize, yeah, it's a mistake. I said something funny. I did this, whatever. You say sorry, you move on, you just move past it. So, I would say, but the intrinsic self confidence that I have, it was, look, I don't think, okay, there's two things. I'll run it through quickly. One was the confidence really blossomed when I got into my first serious relationship with a college girl when I was in high school. And that college girl, not believing that she was my first girlfriend for various reasons, gave me a lot of confidence. And then, I did a lot with my voice. I got involved in radio and voiceover, and I got a lot of positive feedback and always had a lot of feminine feedback for my voice. And, that type of thing when you're not even really trying and you get to be on radio or something and you get good feedback, that will help someone who's in their head like I am feel a little bit better.
It doesn't, listeners, that doesn't mean that he's sick of it and you can't tell him you like his voice. He loves it.
Thank you, Michelle. It's very important for the listeners to know.
Speaking of confidence, I know this is a sensitive topic. That comb over is problematic for me.
Just now for the video audience here, I'm gonna be off mic for a second. I'm just showing. So this part of his head, which I can proudly show the top of my head. Here. I was just pointing to like the middle of my head because he had a bad comb over and he has enough hair to actually pull off
Mm-hmm.
a comb over. But this looked like, I don't know if there was a winter hat situation here because we had like the front was combed over perfectly.
Yeah.
But it was this one shot that I think you said, oh, Inky's not going to be happy about that shot.
Right.
Because he bends his head down a little bit. It's when he's hanging out with his friends and he's laughing. And then you just see it, you got like the, who's the kid from Little Rascals?
Alfalfa.
Thank you. He's got like an alfalfa sprout going up in the back of his head. And you just see this giant bald spot, which, again, not trying to like shame him or anything, but where's his irrational confidence coming from?
I think just that everybody tells him what a great guy he is all the time, and he's never been criticized or put to the test or challenged in any way.
I have nothing to add to that. I think that that's 100%.
I think straight men, white straight men in particular,
Mm-hmm.
don't know that they aren't the bestest boy in the world until they get into a relationship with a woman who makes them feel otherwise.
Absolutely. So you're saying that, but see now, do you think that it's important for men to go through that cycle at all?
Yes, of course. That's why you can't do this fucking whatever she calls it, like gentle partnering or
Yes.
whatever, because
Soft handling.
yes. Ugh. It all just sounds like you're putting baby lotion on someone, and I don't like it.
Can you, because we like to get sexual on this show,
Mm-hmm.
can you picture them fucking?
I can't.
Either can I. I can picture her fucking.
I can picture her fucking someone else.
In general, I can picture her fucking. She's
Yeah.
sexy. She likes to
Yeah.
move.
Great body.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Same time.
Same time.
But this guy, he strikes me as like he's generally had like drunken hookups, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's no like he's got no panache.
No. And he doesn't, yeah, he's not here for your pleasure. And when I use my sight and I ask myself whether he can get down and eat out, the answer is a resounding no. I think he's going into that like a little kid licking the frosting off of the last cupcake at the birthday party. It's a like a manic energy that's kind of like, oh, this is gross, but I'll do it
I'm going to
anyway.
finish it as fast as I can.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a bleh kind of thing.
And for any men out there, women love it if you try and do it as fast as you can. No, don't, I'm just kidding. That is not
Well,
real
men aren't the
advice.
only ones
Excuse
eating.
me. I was talking to from my perspective, but
Okay.
yes, I guess when I said that, I was just assuming that women with women, or
Know what the fuck they're doing.
yes.
Sure. Yeah.
I just thought that might go without saying.
I wouldn't know, but someone who would is Statler.
Oh, Statler, our favorite. We
Yep.
love Statler.
She is my favorite, and nobody can disabuse me of that notion. Please stop trying. It will not happen. Okay.
For me either, for that matter.
Thank you. So Statler's feeling anxious about selling her car, which I can totally relate to. This isn't strictly a neurospicy thing, but I can speak as a neurospicy person to the fact that relationships are very different for us, relationships in general. We have always felt different, even before we could put a name to that difference, because many of us are diagnosed later in life, women in particular. Um, yeah, you don't necessarily have like a relationship with a car that's as meaningful as a relationship with another human or with an animal, but we really like constants in our lives, and we like things that we can rely on and feel safe. And I think that what she did was a really powerful exercise in letting go and making peace. And when I do clear outs, I do some version of that myself. My mother sold my car without informing me. And that was devastating to me because I had that car all through high school and all through my 20s. And then one day it was gone and I wasn't told about it. And it really sucked.
Question on that.
Hmm.
If you had had a chance to thank the car in whatever way you wanted to, mentally or whatever, or say goodbye in that way, would it have made it easier in it?
Yes, of course.
So it is that having it ripped away from you.
It's that having it ripped away, treating it like it doesn't mean anything. It's like that. Yeah, I made some great, I guess if you can't access feeling sentimental about a place or a car or whatever, just think about like the memories that you make somewhere, or how you felt when you were able to buy your first car, or whatever, like I felt for her there. It also struck me that here she's minimizing the sacrifices that she's making, and she's sort of prioritizing Dempsey's sacrifices, which are a whole lot easier. Like Dempsey, we know, has grown up traveling. She doesn't have these kind of attachments to places or things. She doesn't really have a steady routine. She can thrive without one.
Well, fascinating because we have Statler minimizing her what she's giving up.
Yes.
And then she's kind of saying, like, oh, Dempsey gave up her job and her home. Dempsey wanted to give up her trailer home and job on the farm and wants to go in a van. I'm not quite sure, actually. And, I don't know what she's actually giving up because it almost feels like if she could get a van herself, she'd go get a van herself and that would be her address. I'm not saying so far from what we've seen that she's using Statler, although I have suspicions that I'm concerned about. But I will just say that I found that difficult, and then combined with what I found triggering, and I think you did to a different degree, was Dempsey's just continued kind of like vibe that Statler's feelings are sort of like not real or like not that important or not that hard for her to deal with.
She Dempsey treats their differences in needs as an inconvenience and as a character defect, which is extremely painful. And for those of you who are thinking, like, well, why doesn't Statler see that that going all in is crazy, or why is she making this decision if Dempsey doesn't have that respect for her needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've thought that many times. And the truth of the matter is that as whatever makes you feel like you're on the outside, it doesn't have to be um, neurodiversity. It can be anything. It can be a chronic illness. It can be depression. It can be whatever. Choose your flavor, right? Or choose your thing that makes you feel other, your insecurity. When you find someone who even gives you breadcrumbs of acceptance and love, and romantic love in particular, us neurospices, we tend to give what we don't have, and we end up losing ourselves in the process, because it's like, oh my gosh, somebody has made me feel like I'm not a festering piece of garbage, like I'm not a freak or an outlier. Um and I think Dempsey uses that to her advantage, consciously or otherwise, again and again, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
Let me ask you, is it a bit of a chasing the dragon type of thing? Like you hear that? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's when you crave opium
Sure, but
or
that's
heroin.
sure, but people use chasing the dragon in other contexts.
I'm not familiar.
Okay, well, it's just sort of like chasing the high. You can use it like that. So,
Okay.
would a neurospicy person be effectively chasing that high of feeling accepted or that sense of acceptance from a person?
No, because I think that's a separate feeling.
Okay.
Um I mean, I'm not going to say there isn't an overlap between neurospicy folks and addicts, and
That was
neurospicy
not a
folks
connection I was
and
trying to make. I was didn't
no,
mean to do that.
but love addiction does
Sure.
feel that way, and sex addiction does feel that way, because both of those things are about so much more than just the than just a feeling or an emotion. But I think what happens is you get a lot in the beginning, in the sort of honeymoon phase, and then you start to need more, and you don't know how to ask for it, and you have trouble reading the signals of the person that you're with, and so then you start to make up stories in your own head, and it's relationships are really, really fucking hard. um
It feels that's really interesting. I mean, just how you're breaking all of this down, and thank you. I know, this is probably hard to access some of this stuff, but it's very helpful for me and the listeners to understand better. Um, so we have the fact that okay, I'm just skipping around here a little bit to cover all our ground here. Taking what I just just keeping it going here. What do we make of okay, we have all of this going on, and then we have this. Can we move into this money issue that's going on?
yeah.
If you're ready, I don't mean to go ahead here.
Ugh, it just gives me, I don't want to talk about it,
Okay,
to be totally
that's
honest with
fair.
you.
That's fair.
That it gives me so much anxiety. But I think if you haven't watched the show, um, there's an agreed amount that they were willing to pay for the camper van itself. A lot of that has been lost in the difference between the two currencies. That happens, that it doesn't happen to me anymore, really, because I've spent more time in England now. But yeah, like for me, California sales tax is my version of that. It's like, oh, so this doesn't cost $40. This costs $80. Like yeah, that's crazy.
I will just say, and yes, we're not going to go into nerve-wracking territory there, and we'll wrap them up in a second. Um, but I just wanted to say, because this was just more, in my opinion, of Dempsey not seeming to know who Statler is, no matter how long they've been together, what they've been through, in that Dempsey's kind of saying, like, I told you about the money and I told you the numbers. And at some point, Statler says, maybe you did, but I don't remember. And to me, it's like, and, I've been with Diana a really long time, and we know how to work with each other and what our strengths and weaknesses are, and we don't make each other feel bad about that. And it just feels like Dempsey should be well aware at this point that if you have a serious conversation with Statler, who's in a very high stress situation, moving, doing all of this stuff, uh, why not send an email with, like, hey, we talked about this,
Right? It's not that hard, and it's a serious financial transaction. So where is the harm in documenting it?
Exactly.
And I am fucking fed up of this, like, you're lying to me kind of attitude. I'm really fucking sick of it. Or you choose to have these again, perceived character defects that are actually a difference, a neurobiological difference. Um, you know,
You're deciding to be so
yeah, you're
different.
deciding to be different.
So we're going to move on, but I just want to say, Statler, we love you and we're thinking about you.
Always.
And with that, we're going to move on to, I find this one super fascinating, extraordinarily worrying, and one of the few places I've never had the chance to travel is Asia, and I'm always fascinated by especially we're talking about China here with Josh and Lily. Fascinated by China, what is it, like 20 plus cities of at least 1 million people? It's gigantic and fascinating. But watching Josh get going over there by himself, it's just like, man, you are so alone in this situation, bro. Like,
Oof.
I want to give you a hug. I want to give you my phone number. Like, oof.
I that house, that whole energy, that house in China
And Hangzhou.
in Hangzhou is so ex machina ish to me. No, seriously, I just keep expecting her to like open a closet and take her face off and put like another face on, and then like 10 of her get knocked over and fall out of the closet. Like, I'm not saying that she's a robot. I just mean there's something so sinister about that entire setup, and I can't put my finger on it. And at the same time, I know you and Diana have like a lot of empathy for him that I don't have, or just can't access, because I feel like he's hiding something, yada yada-ing over something major, and I can't.
I'm not going to give you a therapy session on air here, but I am so curious as we go forward with them in the coming weeks to find out. We'll get there. I'm curious to see when you access it. Like, what is it about this guy that you? Because I'm watching it and I'm like, what is she hiding? He seems pretty straightforward, and you're watching it being like, this fucking guy has something.
They're both strange. I think for me, I'm thinking, okay, he sold his house, right?
Yes.
Moved in with mom and dad.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. That's a situation that many millennials and Gen Xers find themselves in at some point or another, right?
Yes.
No shame in that game. Where did the money
Go.
go? Where is he holding on to that house? Does he have a tenant? If he got divorced, why would he get the whole house? There's no.
Can no, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm adding to that. I think that we got a little fluffing of that there. I think that we heard I got divorced and I sold my house. Maybe that was a combined situation, and maybe that's why he doesn't have any money from the house.
But what happened in these? Like, how is this not the male version of Rebecca? You know what I
Rebecca
mean?
of.
Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, the novel. Like, how is he not going into some creepy house that he's going to be trapped in, and all the servants are like obsessed with the ex-husband, and that sort
Okay.
of thing.
So now I didn't go to the same story, but we did have the same vibe here of like the way it's being set up. And we do see Lily has finished, she charged $500,000 on her credit cards. Oh no, it cost $500,000, but she said she finished it with credit cards. So, she seems wealthy. So, but my point is, this was not a liquid situation for
No,
her.
no.
But she does. I was surprised because I don't know how much time has elapsed since last week for them. But I was joking last week that she was never going to finish this house, but she did. There's furniture. It looks like it's not an abandoned mall
But
anymore.
why are there so many rooms and why is it so like I get not having the money to decorate, but why are you putting these like creepy
Very sterile.
sterile but they still look used somehow, like white furniture
Like it
that
was
doesn't look particularly
like
comfortable.
showroom furniture.
Yeah, which look, no hate. I have purchased showroom
Oh, so have I.
furniture and it's great. I mean, I've gotten like beautiful pieces that
But did you get white pieces that looked slightly scuffed up?
no, I didn't. No, I don't do that.
But I was going to say I do. Like my whole thing is watching her, and I was happy. Okay, she put it together, but then I'm like, okay, wait, he can't work, and she wants to talk about money with him all the time, and then it started feeling like this is your cage. This is where you're going to live. You're never going to leave, and I'm going to control every aspect of your life going forward. That's what I'm concerned about for him.
Do you know the it's not a fairy tale really. It's more of like a fable. It's like Eastern European in origin. Do
So
you
it's
know
going to be really bright.
it is going to be super bright and I've brought this up before, but do you know the story of Bluebeard's castle?
Oh no, please.
Okay, so listeners know that I'm obsessed with folklore and mythology and things of that nature. So, long story short, Blue Bluebeard takes a wife. He lives in this beautiful castle, and it's got like hundreds of rooms. And he gives her the key to every single one. He says, but you can't go in that room, and indicates to this room that she then can't help herself but open when he leaves. And in that room, she finds the bodies of all of his other wives who went into that room. And the moral of the story is don't put yourself in a situation like that.
Yikes. Am I going to have to read this?
It's not like a book that someone wrote. It's like
Oh, it's a folk tale, like
yeah, it's
folklore.
folklore, yeah.
Gotcha.
But the lesson is, don't be too curious about what other people are hiding because you may not know what situation you're getting into, or do your research ahead of time.
Curiosity killed the cat. Don't ask too many
She
questions.
could have gone on TripAdvisor, just saying. Yeah, don't recommend going into the room that you're not supposed to go into.
Before we move on from them, I just want to touch on one more aspect that was entertaining.
That he got his first job at 15 and a half years
Oh, that
old.
was very funny. Maybe 15 and 3/4. No, it was his cab ride. I just wanted to discuss this.
God.
This was
Wow.
the Now, I want to give the cab driver props for being straightforward with this random American guy. He's driving 3 hours. And also props to the translator app. That seems to be one of the best functioning translator apps we've
Oh,
ever seen.
just you. They.
Oh, they're setting it up.
This is the Chekhov's gun in the 90-day universe. Is the translator
Oh, look,
app?
the translator's great. How's it going to work when he's off the Wi-Fi? Uh-oh.
Not just that, but you remember the Devin and Jihoon translator.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not an app. It's its own separate machine. Which
Oh, I thought he was using his phone. Was he actually?
no,
Oh, he had a device.
no, he has a device.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the cab driver told him very ominously that, well, not the first part's not ominous. All Chinese men work. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
great. Okay, got it. But then Don't let your wife support you. Go get a job. This is troubling advice after we found out that Josh can't work for at least 5 years. And it sounds like maybe closer to 10 plus. And he's
At
47
which
years
point he'll
old.
be like 60.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it filled me with dread. The driver seemed like he wanted to turn around to bring him back to the airport.
Wow.
Yowza.
Um, on to Shekinah and Sarper then.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say with a lot of confidence that Sarper's apartment has been cleaned intermittently and sporadically by maybe his hot cousin or his mom or, you know, a sister-in-law that passes through. He has never cleaned this himself. And I wanted to ask you, Jack, what does this apartment smell like?
Oof. Okay. Body odor.
What are give me the base notes of that
The
body
notes.
odor?
Okay. 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 It's gonna be pretty gross. Okay.
Okay.
It smells a bit like a gym, like a male locker room. It smells like balls, sweat, feet. It smells like oily hair and skin, and like an uncomfortable like cover up like Axe style body spray. And sorry, but it also definitely smells like dank pussy in that apartment. That's what's going on.
You think?
When I say no, maybe not dank, old dried is that this is like a dried situation. You're pointing out it's never been cleaned. There is like remnants of the what is it, 400,000 women that he's
No,
slept.
I see. I'm not buying that at all because I don't think a woman has ever been to that apartment that isn't a relative.
What woman would go there unless it was like some random one late night thing where maybe you can't see how gross the apartment is. That to me, look, okay, I was getting a little far out there with describing the odor there, but it does smell like a locker room and it's gross. And it
Yeah.
also probably smells a bit like liquor, like liquor sitting like out,
Don't
like
forget
that.
the chicken and rice because that's unseasoned chicken and rice. Like that smell of.
Oh, of just like chicken breast just out.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. Now, and also we get into this about the cleaning because Shekinah's really upset at that the bed is not made, which is what spurred this conversation between
Oh,
us.
those sheets are so fucking dirty.
Well, what was
Ugh.
weird, what it looked like there was like a lumbar roller and like a dirty blanket and like what was that, like one pillow that had like newspaper as filling. It was really fucking depressing. And since I talked about Inky's bald spot there, Sarper,
Sarper's got
I
one
I think you need to
too.
call your hair transplant infusion friend and maybe move forward with another
Yeah,
treatment.
I don't think he's going to be happy about that.
Got a little too close to the scalp there. I wonder if the cameraman, like they often do on these, I don't know if there's any trolling going on here because that was like very close to his head unnecessarily.
I have to say, if you pressed me on what these two actually talked about, I wouldn't be able to tell you because every time I look at them, I just hear like squirrels talking. And it's substance wise, it's probably about the same. Um, but what I just a thing that I wanted to pick out was that talking face to face means no eye contact and both of them staring straight ahead, gazing into the middle distance. I thought I was amused by that. And also the performative act of him picking up this letter, flipping through the pages, and then throwing it on the ground where there was already like
Oh, so
food and
gross.
garbage. I it'd be so uncomfortable in that house.
One
Ugh.
other aspect of this, Shekinah walks in and sees the famous bottle of liquor for every woman I ever slept with in this house or whatever. She's upset, but we saw last on her way to the airport, she was talking to her friend about how the case of bottles is there and she knows she's going to walk into it. Was she just looking to argue with him, or do you think this is just garbage because they're just like not really having a real storyline here?
I think they're fine. Um, I don't really know what this is about. I think they're both wrong about some things and they're both right about other things when I can be bothered to listen to the contents of their weird conversations. But that's it makes it very I don't find them fascinating. I don't find them massively entertaining. It's very difficult for me to engage with couples who are this where there's just so much put on, you know? I mean, I struggle with that. I think that you can have people who are savvy in the ways of reality TV
Oh, sure.
and still enjoy, you know, what they're doing. I love a good made for television villain. You know, you can do these things convincingly
Hmm.
and not put your whole heart into it but make it look like that's what you're doing, and these are too stupid to do that. They forget their lines, you know, they say stupid things.
They absolutely do. And I was just thinking while you were saying that, that there's like, I was trying to think of like a genuine moment between the two of them, like ever. And I mean, I can't recall every moment, but like just thinking back, it's all very much for the camera. And I can't, you're saying like trying to picture like what they talk about. They talk about what they're going to say in front of the camera. Like, you know,
And I also think they talk about sex all the time incessantly, but
they don't
they
do
don't do
it.
it. Nope.
I just, there is a thing where I just wonder with these two. And I don't mean this to be like funny about them, but I just mean it factually. I get the feeling that if they were having sex and there was a mirror, that Sarper would be looking at Sarper and Shekinah would be looking at Shekinah.
Yep.
And that's like a
There
very,
probably was a mirror on the wall opposite them.
you're probably right.
I mean, I think some of these video recordings that we do look funny because sometimes I'm looking at myself and sometimes I'm looking at you. And because of the way we're set up, it looks like we're looking in the same
Yes.
direction.
Yes, it does.
Because we are right next to each other, which makes it a bit confusing. But yeah, we look, we're not.
Don't give away the tricks of the trade.
No, I would never. I wouldn't dare. Anything else on these two?
No, I think we're gonna see what happens with them. And my big interest with them is if they're going to be some sort of mainstay here, he's going to have to come here for their story to really progress.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know they've teased that a little bit. And I'm just going to say right now, in my crystal ball here, because this is what we saw coming up on the season, we see that there's going to be a cheating allegation against Sarper while Shekinah was here.
She
But
wishes.
we also saw that they're working on the what is it? The what's the visa called? The
The K
K1.
one.
I almost said K9, K1. The K1 visa. So we already know they're doing all of that. So I think this is like a little bit of like nonsense noise and almost like a placeholder for them until he gets here and they can move forward.
Yeah, I think they're going to be on either before the 90 or 90-day fiance. I mean, that I think would raise the stakes for me a little bit. Like that would be much more interesting for me because I'd much rather I feel like if he particularly if he came to LA
Yes.
and he felt like a real tangible challenge to what he thinks is his charm
Yes.
and what he perceives as his like irresistible, you know,
Magnetism.
magnetism. Yeah. And then he's like, he comes here and he's like, oh, I'm short and plastic. And so are 8 out of 10 other people here. You know, like that would be a big, that would shake up his worldview for
I
sure.
agree 100% because Shekinah can handle herself anywhere and she's comfortable in Turkey. She can go anywhere. Sarper coming here would be like a real fun fish out of water story. I would like to see him like meeting his people in LA, like who he finds as his people. We'll see. Going back to a callback earlier in the show, does Sarper, is he the type of guy that has a group of friends or just sort of a hangout here and there?
I think he's a lone wolf. I think he spends a lot of time alone. Um,
How much time did he have in between those 750,000 women?
oh, brother. My name is Michelle, and my body count is well below 2,500.
My name's Jack, and my body count is private. But it's way below any other numbers that are upsetting.
Can't say your body count is private.
Well, that sounds creepier when
That's
you
a
say it that way.
conversation stopper.
Okay, here. How about this? My name's Jack, and I'm a serial monogamist with a not very high body count. How about that?
That's too much information.
Okay.
You just don't have to talk.
My name's Jack, and I wish I had some friends to go play D&D with tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're interested, listeners, in being our D&D friends, don't, because we're too old to learn and too ADHD to like be able to slide into that kind of situation. But I'd love to know if you have a D&D game, how strong it is. Tell us all about it. If you have comments, questions, suggestions, come at us. DMs are open. I'm Michelle Snark on Facebook and Blighty Day at Blighty Day on Instagram. You can also email us anytime, blightydayfiance@gmail.com. In the subject line, just say who it's for. If it's for anyone, just write anyone or everyone if you want to hear from all of us. We love you.
We love you. That's
That's
it.
it.